airing down before hitting the trails, well, these guys might make your life just a little bit easier. So there are actually quite a few manufacturers of tire deflators, and there was only 2 manufacturers that I considered, and I ended up with the Coyote brand. These are actually made in the USA, super high quality. They are a little costly, but I think they are worth it because they tend to be quite accurate as compared to some of the cheaper ones. You can get a set for $35 or so off Amazon, but please read through the reviews before you purchase those. I did read that there were a lot of inconsistencies with tire pressure. We're going to take this out to the 4Runner and do a quick demonstration, but just to give you an idea, this part screws onto the valve stem. And then with this screw being loose here, it allows the cap to move clockwise and counterclockwise. This point right here will give you an idea of where you are so you can calibrate correctly. So once screwed onto the valve stem, pull this tab out, you hear ch, which will be the air releasing from the tire. And when it stops, it will stop at a certain PSI. At that point, you can unscrew it from the valve stem, check your tire pressure. If the tire pressure was desired to be 18 and it's at 20, you want to decrease it 2 PSI, you would come back to here. The cap, you would turn counterclockwise, and that might be right around 2 PSI. It's impossible to know, but you would put it back onto the valve stem, pull the cap, let it stop, take it back off, check the PSI. If you're happy with the PSI, you want to tighten up that set screw, make sure it's tight, and then what I do also is I mark from the cap down with a marker, this way I have an idea of where it was, and if it's off, I can see it visually. Made it out to the 4Runner, and we're going to calibrate the Coyote Deflators. So this is what I'm setting up with. I have my tire inflator to reinflate the tires. When I deflate back down again to recalibrate, I'll inflate them again. I'm going to use this to check my PSI on the tires. I found that the Ryobi is probably about 1 to 1.5 PSI off. This one seems to be more accurate. I've calibrated that with another gauge. So we're going to start this way. I have the tire right now at 25. My goal is to get this calibrated down to 18 PSI. So I don't know where it's at right now, but my first step is to loosen the collar right here, and that allows me to move the cap back and forth. So now I'm going to just snug the collar a little bit so it doesn't move. I'm going to screw it onto the valve stem. So I'm going to pull this tab and we'll see what PSI it's calibrated to right now. So you can hear that the air coming out, and it'll stop completely. We'll take it off, we'll check the PSI, and we'll adjust accordingly so we can get down to 18. Okay, it stopped. So right now I'm gonna make sure it's snug on there so I don't lose where I'm at. I'll take the deflator off the valve stem, and we'll check the PSI here. Let's see where we're at if we have to change it. So we're at 22, just over 22 PSI right now. So that means I have to take this down about 4 PSI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen the collar or the set screw. On top there's that little notch that I was telling you about. So I'm going to turn it, let's see, I'm going to turn it halfway. So instead of 1 full revolution, it's a half revolution. I'm going to snug this set screw back up so it doesn't move, just in case we nailed 18 PSI, but we'll see. Back on the valve stem. Do it slowly so you don't have to inflate. Hopefully I didn't do it too much, and we'll pull that. Air will come out, and then we'll check it again. If we're at 19 or somewhere close, then we're going to start turning it very slowly counterclockwise on the cap side. If we pass it, we'll have to reinflate and do it again. Okay, it stopped. Take it off. And check PSI. we are at 21. So we came down 1 psi. So that half revolution took out just over 1 psi. So I'm going to loosen that set screw again. I'm actually going to turn it the half revolution. I'm thinking that's going to take me down to a little over 19. And then I'm going to turn it another quarter. I'll snug up the set screw. And let's see where we're at here. Okay, there, stopped. PSI 18. So let's check it again. 18. Oh. Actually, we're just over 17. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up just a little bit. While this is pumping up, I'm going to turn that clockwise to bring it up just under 1 psi here. So let's inflate and loosen the set screw, and now I turn clockwise. So I'm just going to turn it a little bit. I'm thinking somewhere around there. I'm going to snug it up, and I'm going to give it another try. So hopefully you get an idea of how the deflators work. Having 4 of them, you put one on each tire, they all deflate at the same time or at similar times, and you could be down to your desired air pressure and on the trail a lot quicker. So hopefully this video helps someone out. If you have any questions, drop them below in the comments. In the description, I will put a link to the Coyote Deflators that I bought. I bought them from Desert Rat. Staun Deflators, S-T-A-U-N, was another one of my top considerations. I did end up with the Coyotes, however, but both were on the top of my list. So thanks again for watching. Please subscribe to the channel for a ton more content. I have a lot of modifications going into and on the 4Runner, and we will take that off-road a lot more often, camping, overlanding, and then we have the other truck that's being added to the channel that I'm going to do some modifications on as well, so that's exciting for me. Anyway, stay tuned, and thanks again for watching, guys.